Welcome to Still Mind Suttas. In this episode, we'll sit with a discourse where the Buddha is approached by learned brahmans and a confident young student, and the conversation turns to a simple but deep question: how do we know what's really true? We'll explore the Buddha's gentle unpacking of faith, tradition, and personal experience, showing how truth is not claimed by force, but discovered step by step. As you listen, you're invited to set aside the noise of opinions and arguments for a while and just let the teaching land. Notice how it might speak to the way you hold your own views, your teachers, and your search for a trustworthy path in the middle of everyday work, family, and inner stress. In this discourse, the Buddha is traveling through the land of the Kosalans with a large company of monks, about 500 in all. Their journey brings them to a Brahmin village called Uposatha. The Buddha settles nearby in a quiet Deva forest just north of the village. At that time, the village is under the authority of a Brahmin named Caṅkī, a respected leader whose land and status were granted by King Pasenadi of Kosala. Word spreads quickly. The contemplative Gautama, the son of the Sakyans, has arrived. People speak of his reputation, how he teaches a path that is admirable from beginning to end, how he explains the nature of the world through his own direct knowing, and how countless beings find guidance in his presence. Inspired by this news, the Brahmin householders of the village gather in groups and begin walking toward the forest to see him. From the upper floor of his mansion, Caṅkī sees his people moving as a crowd toward the trees. Curious, he asks what is happening. When he hears that it is the Buddha who has arrived, he sends word asking everyone to wait. He intends to go as well. At that time, many visiting Brahmins from other regions are also staying in Uposatha. Hearing that Caṅkī plans to visit the Buddha, they object. They insist that someone of Caṅkī's standing should not go to a wandering contemplative. They list his virtues, his lineage, his wealth, his learning, his beauty, his eloquence, his influence, and his royal connections. Surely, they argue, it is the Buddha who should come to Caṅkī, not the other way around. But Caṅkī responds patiently. He explains that the Buddha's qualities surpass even these arguments. The Buddha, too, comes from a noble lineage. He renounced enormous wealth while still a young man. He left home even while his parents wept, out of compassion for the world. He is virtuous and wise, a teacher of teachers, renowned across kingdoms and continents. Kings and learned Brahmins alike take refuge in him. And beyond all of this, Caṅkī says, the Buddha is their guest. To honor him properly, they must go to him, not demand that he come to them. Hearing this, the visiting Brahmins agree, and together they go with Caṅkī to meet the Buddha. When they arrive, Caṅkī exchanges respectful greetings with the Buddha and sits to one side. Nearby, several senior Brahmins are engaged in conversation with the Buddha. Among the assembly sits a young Brahmin named Kappadika, only 16 years old, but already well trained in the Vedas and in all the traditional sciences. Confident in his learning, he interrupts the elders repeatedly. The Buddha gently rebukes him, telling him to wait until the proper time to speak. Caṅkī defends the young man, saying he is capable of taking part in the discussion. Sensing the student's eagerness, the Buddha meets his gaze. Encouraged, Kappadika asks a question. Master Gautama, the ancient hymns of our tradition have been passed down for generations. The Brahmins say of them, only this is true, everything else is worthless. What do you say to this? The Buddha responds by asking whether any Brahmin today truly knows these hymns through direct seeing, whether any teacher or teacher's teacher, or even the ancient seers who composed them ever declared, this we know and see directly, only this is true. Kappadika admits that no one ever claimed such certainty. The Buddha then offers an image. A line of blind men, each grasping the one in front, cannot see the path. None sees. Not the first, not the middle, not the last. In the same way, he says, When people cling to a tradition without direct knowing, their confidence rests on something groundless. Kappadika replies that the Brahmins honor the hymns not only out of conviction, but because they come from an unbroken tradition. The Buddha agrees but expands the point. There are 5 ways people come to believe something: through conviction, through liking, through tradition, through reasoning, or through pondering views. But all of these can go either way. They may lead to truth or to error. Therefore, he says, it is unwise to leap to the claim, only this is true, all else is worthless. Kappadika then asks, if that is not safeguarding the truth, what is? The Buddha explains that a person safeguards the truth simply by being honest about the basis of their belief. If they hold something through conviction, they should say, this is my conviction, without insisting that nothing else could be true. The same applies to tradition, reasoning, or any other basis. This honesty is called safeguarding the truth, though it is not yet awakening. Kappadika asks what awakening to the truth looks like. The Buddha describes a more experiential path. A householder approaches a monk and observes him carefully. Does he speak or act from greed, aversion, or delusion? If not, the householder gains confidence. He draws near, listens, remembers the teachings, reflects on their meaning, and eventually sees the truth for himself. This is awakening, not full realization, but the beginning of it, grounded in direct experience rather than belief. Kappadika asks how one finally attains the truth. The Buddha answers that it comes through cultivating these same qualities, growing them, developing them, and persisting with them until they bear fruit. The dialogue continues as Kappadika asks what supports each step. What supports final attainment? Exertion. What supports exertion? Contemplation. What supports contemplation? Willingness. What supports willingness? Desire. And so on, retracing the entire chain back to its starting point, conviction. Confidence is what begins the whole journey. It leads a person to visit a teacher, draw close, listen, remember, reflect, and eventually realize the truth for themselves. Hearing all this, Caṅkī and the Brahmans are deeply moved. They confess that they once dismissed contemplatives as inferior. But now, having heard the Buddha's words, their hearts shift. Caṅkī praises the Buddha for making the Dhamma clear, like one who turns upright what has been overturned, who brings forth what has been hidden, who lights a lamp in the dark. He declares himself a follower of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. The heart of this sutta rests on one key theme. Truth is not secured by tradition, belief, or clever reasoning. Real truth must be seen for oneself. The Buddha invites us to be honest about where our views come from, to observe carefully whether a teaching is free from greed, aversion, and delusion, and to walk the path step by step, from confidence to listening, to reflection, to effort, until we touch the truth directly. In daily life, this teaching encourages a gentle kind of humility. We can acknowledge our beliefs without clinging to them. We can examine our teachers carefully, not for perfection, but for integrity. And we can remember that understanding grows gradually. Each time we listen deeply, reflect sincerely, and act with intention, we continue the movement toward what is real. We've just heard a sutta that turns our attention away from winning arguments and toward a quieter honesty, admitting how we've come to our views and being willing to test them in experience. The Buddha doesn't reject faith, tradition, or thinking, but he reminds us they are starting points, not final proof. Truth ripens when we meet a worthy example, listen carefully, reflect deeply, and then live what we've understood. As you go about your day, you might gently notice moments when the mind wants to say, "Only this is right. Everything else is wrong." In those moments, you can pause, breathe, and simply acknowledge, "This is my current understanding." When you hear a teaching that moves you, take a little time later to sit quietly with it. Remember it, turn it over in your mind, and see how it feels when you bring it into a conversation, a decision, or a small act of kindness. If reflections like this are supportive, you're welcome to return to Still Mind Suttas or to subscribe so you can keep exploring these early teachings at a gentle pace. May whatever you've heard here today help you walk a little more clearly and a little more humbly in the direction of truth.